Hey, welcome everyone. Today I am being joined by Sally K Norton, who is the author of Toxic Superfoods and also the data companion that goes with it, and some other things as well, which we'll talk about later on. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. I wanted to talk to you because I came across your interview last year with Dr. Chafee about oxalates, and I was amazed, shocked, surprised, happy, everything, because I was like, wow, maybe this is the key, that magic key to health and happiness. And it took me down a rabbit hole, quite a deep rabbit hole. Of looking into this whole oxalate thing. And as you're the oxalate guru, I thought, what better person to talk to us here than you? So thank you for joining us for this.
You're welcome. It's great to be with you, really. It's like anybody who's opening their mind to a new idea, this is a counter idea to what we've been told over and over again for the last 50, 60 something years. And then our whole world is saturated with a message that this doesn't fit inside very well.
Mhm. Yeah. So, as you know, a lot of the people that would be watching this on my channels and social media and things have chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, sleep problems, pain problems, digestive problems, all of those sorts of things. And it seems to me that a lot of these could actually be oxalates. So I wondered if you would firstly just tell us a little bit about what oxalate is, and then we'll get into some more about it.
Oxalates are often called plural because there's different forms that it takes and it's a little bit changeable in nature, is a natural chemical sitting around in a handful of unnecessary foods. We can overdo these foods and eat them, and that erodes our health because oxalate is this little tiny acid chemical that chelates or connects with or binds with minerals, especially calcium. And when it starts collecting into like little collaborative molecules that it crystallizes out and makes crystals that can grow. And they can grow into things like kidney stones. Your average kidney stone is made from oxalate. It's a calcium oxalate crystal, but your doctor will tell you it's a calcium stone. I forgot to tell you that it's made of oxalate. That's the main essential ingredient to a kidney stone. So basically, nature makes this little acid and builds up crystals in soil, in the barks of trees to help protect them because the crystals are hard like quartz. So if you're a tree, getting rid of extra calcium by using oxalate, you can build these armor in your bark and protect you from the beetles who want to drill a hole in you. Right. So there's lots of good uses out there. The funguses make it, the plants need it for lots of different purposes. Seeds, it helps protect the seeds the same way it might protect a tree. So it's just part of nature. It happens to be in foods we think are so great. And we've been ignoring it, not because we don't know about oxalate. We've used oxalic acid since the dawn of chemistry. It was being used to define chemicals and what's in the elements in chemicals. And we use it in science all the time. So much so we're so familiar with it on the geeky science side that we've kind of disregarded it. It's kind of like not suspecting your baby sister actually murdered the next door neighbor because she's so sweet. Like you're so used, like you're just used to her. And so it's been overlooked, but you can actually get into trouble eating foods you think are good. Me with my Swiss chard and sweet potatoes, kiwi poisoned ourselves and had severe fatigue, severe pain, arthritis, digestive problems, sleep disorder. My brain was waking up 29 times an hour. I had to quit my faculty position. I didn't know it. I was so tired. All I knew is I could barely read, and I was pushing and pushing, pushing myself to perform and function and look normal, but suffering mightily. And it turns out it's like all the effort to grow and make scratch food out of organic ingredients was actually undermining my health. Like I was hurting myself by buying and cooking organic sweet potatoes and organic Swiss chard. by growing those. Like I put so much energy into that. And unfortunately, nobody is paying attention to that in my field of nutrition and public health. So we're leaving us all to fantasize that if we eat more of these foods that seem fine on the surface and ignoring their oxalate content, we're going to pay a big price. And we are. We have this mysterious problems with various autoimmune conditions, and most everyone has some kind of digestive disorder, some kind of neurological disorder with either their mood. We have a real problem now of people needing brain altering drugs, whether they're recreational or prescription, to handle their mood problems and their motivational problems. We have pain syndromes, we have inflammation, like we're suffering and we can't figure out why. It's not just the Skittles. The message has been in nutrition, get rid of the junk food. As long as you eat real natural foods from the produce department, all will be well. Well, those of us who've been doing that our whole lives are not well.
Yeah, totally. I was doing the same. Eating the rainbow, eating the superfoods, all of that kind of thing. And yeah, when I cut them out, I was shocked that, even though I was feeling pretty well back then, the difference it made for my energy levels, my brain all of a sudden switched on. I didn't realize it was switched off, but yeah, so yeah, it sounds like a lot of the symptoms that somebody that could be suffering from something like chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, that kind of thing, could actually be oxalates then.
It certainly can, and I've been amazed at how many people I've worked with. I've worked with at least three people who were so down with energy, strength, connective tissue stability. This is another piece of the pain syndrome, is your connective tissue isn't right, and things stretch in ways that cause pain, and you don't have some people lose the ability to hold up their head. They're so they're bedbound and unable to self-care, brush their own teeth, feed themselves. And these kinds of severe disabilities reverse themselves when we get off these foods. But it's slow because they've gotten this far along. If we were able to recognize this earlier and prevent these things, it would be amazing. But the fact that you can be that sick and come back from it is pretty exciting. But the process of coming back from it isn't quick. And the reason is because you are accumulating calcium oxalate crystals in tissues. So you're gaining particulate pollution in the form of quartzy crystals that the immune system is struggling to deal with. And that can be forming in the tissues because oxalates come as oxalic acid, which flows into your bloodstream. The crystals that are in the seeds and plants you're eating tend to stay in the gut and just irritate the gut. The crystals are hard enough, as I said, you can wear down your teeth just chewing too many of them, and they're irritating to your gut. So you can see how the gut would be too happy. And then this chemical gets in there that starts messing with the electrolytes in your blood, starts interrupting the cell's ability to produce energy, messing with the mitochondria, disturbing the liver. The liver has to make and use up its glutathione in order to handle the stress. The liver makes more oxalate. You don't have a way to, quote, metabolize or detox this stuff. You have to excrete it. That's why it ends up in the kidneys, because it's a water soluble compound under typical conditions, and you're excreting it out all the time. You're peeing it out. But if you have trouble managing a high load of it day in and day out with each meal, some people develop kidney stones. But you don't have to have kidney stones to be poisoned with oxalate. And if you do have kidney stones, it means you're more end stagey, like you've really got too much oxalate in your system. And you also probably have some genetic um, kind of compromises, you might say, where you're not able to fight the crystallization as well as some people. I can fight that crystallization with my kidneys and don't get the kidney stones. I got the muscle pains, all the tightness, the fascia tension, the trigger points, the arthritis, the gout, the tooth pain, the tooth decay, the tartar, the eye issues, and the fatigue. Turns out when you mess up your mitochondria and you eat a chemical that sits on the enzymes that make energy in cells, you get into brownout where your cells don't have enough energy. And you can feel it sometimes how much work it is to think a thought or to read. It's like, wow, it's not easy to live in a brownout. And your cells can't maintain those tissues well. And you start to have connective tissue problems. It becomes an acidity problem. It leaches calcium from the blood and therefore the bones because you use the bones to replace them. You'll end up with osteopenia and osteoporosis. The crystals like to bind with calcium, so they tend to get into the bone tissue and the bone marrow. So they affect the metabolism of making blood. So the bone marrow is where you make your white cells and your red cells, and that's interfering with the proper production. The cells get pushed out in the bloodstream before they're ready. It's kind of like sending a 14-year-old off to a career before they're ready. And that career in the bloodstream isn't so great as a blood cell because the blood gets filled with oxalic acid in the 20 minutes to 4 hours after you eat, say, a spinach smoothie, chia pudding, um, sweet potatoes, all kinds of greens, however you do those things. I used to cook them and have three vegetables plus a salad plus some kind of usually a meat entree every night. Like, yeah, just thinking, gotta have these vegetables. Some people are doing it as like keto bread and almonds and peanuts and cashews. Those things are also high in this oxalic acid. So the answer, if you're eating a lot of spinach, Swiss chard, beets, or beet greens, you don't need those foods. They're high in this oxalate. They're very easy to avoid. You can have other greens. If you want a salad or greens, eat the collard greens, mustard greens, romaine and leaf lettuces, all the lettuces, arugula, watercress, they're all low. So it's just a few greens. And then sweet potatoes, white potatoes, there's other things to eat. Nuts, really hard on the gut anyway, and then add the oxalic acid. Just a few things. So it's kind of easy. You just realize this is another kind of poison like a lead, mercury, aluminum, glyphosate, any of these things. You just see, oh, well, nature, of course, has these poisons, but how is a plant to defend itself? I mean, trees and flowers and grass don't care what you need. They have to survive for themselves. Their job is to not be codependent with you, but to take care of themselves. So they do this chemistry on their behalf, not on yours. Like they're not designed to make you well. But we have this fantasy that they are. It's a very Disney-fied world we live in. Like, oh, all the birds, the bees, the bears, and the trees want to love on us. Maybe not. Maybe we are hunter-gatherers by design. We're meant to thin the herd. We're meant to eat animal foods as a key source of our nutrition. And these things that we've invented. Oh, by the way, we invented the carrot. We invented the cabbage family. We invented the huge mass varieties of potatoes. We invented the ear of corn. We invented tea. Like, okay, they're not just laying there in a grocery store built by God 10,000 years ago. These are all technological advances where we've clevered ourselves into a world that's really not serving us well.
Yeah. Clever humans, eh?
Clever humans. It's
Um,
like 12-year-olds with gunpowder. It's like they're gonna get in trouble. So, if you have a sense of humor, you realize, like, wait a minute, if we just simplify and just realize, okay, there's certain chemicals, the idea that, say, spinach is so good for you is built on nothing. Nothing.
oh,
The
bye.
science. 100 years ago, we knew that if you gave spinach to growing animals or children, you would harm them greatly and they would have weak bones. They wouldn't grow to full size. They wouldn't grow to full weight. They would become infertile. Their teeth would fall out. Like we know that the loss of calcium and the loss of active minerals in a growing body is devastating. Um, and we've ignored the science right from the beginning. The medical folks were like, well, we'll just call greens healthy anyway, even though spinach is clearly bad. And it's much better to eat mustard greens and turnip tops than spinach. But we'll just pretend that's not the case because we want simplified messaging. We don't think you're smart enough to know the difference between spinach and turnip tops. So we'll just say green stuff. It's like, really
Yeah.
selling the public short with um, shortcut messages. And now it's a pretty hazardous world because people are pushing these foods that are high in oxalate as if you can have all you want and the more is better. More is absolutely not better. So, a little less spinach, Swiss chard, sweet potatoes, that's not hard to do.
Yeah. One of the questions that I've noticed a lot of people ask is, but I think you've probably answered it, is how do I know if I've got a problem with oxalates? I think everyone thinks it could be someone else, or it's if you only have kidney stones or something. But how does someone know if they have a problem with oxalates then?
Yeah, that's a great question, really, to go over because we all want a test.
Mhm.
If there was an easy test, you'd already know about this problem. If there was an easy test and an easy drug, it would be known, but it's not known because it's not easy to test for. So the only real test is to know that your exposure level has been high because you eat these foods, or you don't even have to eat a lot of spinach and sweet potatoes and Swiss chard and nuts to get the problem. All you need is leaky gut because your normal degree of movement of that oxalic acid from the food into your bloodstream should only be 15% of it, but you can have 60 or 70% move in if you have a leaky gut. So if you have leaky gut, which if you've had a history of use of NSAID drugs, you may have without even symptoms, even though the symptoms are under the hood. If you have problems with urinary issues and your kidneys aren't working that well, you won't remove it from your blood fast enough. So if you have either a high oxalate diet, leaky gut, or kidney issues, you have an exposure problem. You have way too much oxalate in your life. And then look at the symptom side. You got anything wrong with you? Well, life could be better. So lowering this toxin that's messing up your blood cells, your immune function, your vascular system, your detox systems, your glands and your bones and so on. Lowering a toxin is a good and easy thing to do. So you look at I have these risk factors because I either eat these foods or have these other risk factors, and I have some health problems that could be better. Then you can try making this change and hopefully you can detect a difference. That's the hardest part. What we could talk about, like, okay, so now when you evaluate the change in your diet, is it helping you or is it not? That's tricky because you have oxalate accumulation in your thyroid gland, in your shoulder joint, in your bones, bone marrow, teeth, eyeballs, brain, wherever, kidneys for sure. Almost certainly you have it in your thyroid gland, your kidneys, and your bones. Guaranteed if you're over the age 25. You've got some accumulation, probably in your skin, anywhere where you've had old injuries, if you've had frostbite, if you do a repetitive sport or something like that, those tissues that have a lot of wear and tear, if you've had infections in the past, wherever those were affecting your body, you've got little tiny particulate grit like kidney stones stuck in those tissues. And then you stop adding to it when you stop eating it. Within 3 or 4 days, your body can start going after some of this grit. And so remobilizing the accumulation repoisons your bloodstream and your kidneys, and you could feel bad again. So is this helping or not? It can be confusing. But usually there's a window. And the other thing is, you don't really want to go so quickly away from a high oxalate diet where you've had too many of these foods in your diet to a very low oxalate diet, because that change will indicate to the body, oh, finally, this time when we can clean it out, because the body's having to hold on to this unwantingly, it doesn't want to hold it there. But now you're giving it a chance by stopping. If you quit adding it and clean out the vascular system and it lowers the general level in the bloodstream from a tiny bit to way less, you can mobilize this oxalate and you're just still high in oxalate. So you don't get over the basically overload of oxalic acid crystals, calcium oxalate crystals, and so on in your body tissues and in your life just by changing your diet. Your body has to start doing this reversal process. And sometimes that can lead to symptoms of gout and fatigue and sleeplessness and nighttime urination, frequent urination and tartar on the teeth. There's all kinds of different ways where the body can start complaining all over again. You think, well, hey, this didn't really work for me. So that's one reason why we need the book. so you can understand this well and get yourself some guidance and a little reference, a little manual, so you can kind of figure out what's going on and keep trying to understand it. The book's also in audio format, and you can have the audio read the book to you. Yeah, toxic superfoods, so that, maybe audio is better. There's an ebook and so on. I think having the audio read you the paperback will help it get into the brain. It's so hard to learn when you don't feel well. It's
Mm.
really tough to learn. And this is hard topic because the idea that foods we say are good are actually not good doesn't stick in your head. Because all around you, you're getting messaging that says vegetables are going to save the day. The reason you're sick is because you eat too many Skittles. Well, you don't. You've been trying to eat well. You're working on your health. It's not just the junk food. It's just toxins in general can pull us down and deficiency. It's the oxalates causes deficiencies in minerals and probably in several B vitamins because it's leaching your system and stressing out your liver and using up B vitamins and literally leaching potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, and probably the trace minerals out of your body. So that combination of toxicity and deficiency, no wonder you feel awful.
Yeah. So it's a big topic. This is with a lot of different elements to it. How do we make it as simple as possible for people to start going right down that road of kind of lowering their oxalate and hopefully feeling better in between the maybe not feeling so good?
Right. Well, like one thing to remember, this is a toxicity and not a sensitivity. So it's not like you need a specialized genetic type to be poisoned. Like it just that the difference is some people tolerate more than others. So just as a self-defense, like know in your head, okay, this is another toxicity, not an allergy like a gluten or something like that. And then you think, okay, so I have this little accumulation and I have this diet. So you just go look at your diet and you say, well, oh, one of the other ones I didn't mention was turmeric. If you're on a gluten-free diet, you may be eating things like quinoa, teff, buckwheat, cassava, arrowroot. These are all high oxalate. So pick your like use the I have an evaluation tool, a symptom and exposure inventory available on my website for free, and a lot of free information. If you go to the shop downloads page, there's some free stuff there. That's also in Toxic Superfoods, the book. And so you can kind of assess yourself, okay, I'm a sweet potato person, or I'm an almond person, or I'm a chia person, or
All
I'm
of
a
it.
oh God. So there's your list. Like, okay, you have like 8 of them. Pick the first one off the list, like Swiss chard. Nobody is unhappy with the loss of Swiss chard. So start there and just quit that for a while and learn how to live without Swiss chard. And then just, oh, bran, get rid of the bran. Who needs bran? You don't. Get rid of that one. And then quinoa, please get rid of that one. Almonds, they got to go. So one at a time, just start learning to come down slowly and just take your time and be relaxed. Just have to have the commitment to keep coming back to the topic, to keep reminding yourself, what are the ones that are high in oxalate again? And get your list of the foods you've been relying on for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years that are on this list of the worst offenders that are super high in oxalate, and just start bumping off a few of them here and there. And literally, sometimes all you have to change is like 3 things and you start feeling better. And you don't have to go all the way to a zero oxalate diet. That is highly discouraged. So just getting out of what I call the danger zone by getting rid of chard, beet green, spinach, almonds, peanuts, maybe sweet potatoes, and you can do a lot for yourself. Now, one of the ones I haven't mentioned is chocolate. Chocolate is used in the studies to study oxalate because it moves in. So if somebody will come in for a study to see how much you absorb and how quickly it shows up in the urine, and they'll give you either a chocolate bar or a hot cocoa because it's the one thing you can get volunteers to easily do. And it's, convenient for the researchers. So we know that chocolate is an issue, and if you're going to keep chocolate in your life, which you can, you want to buy one that's low in lead and low in cadmium and know how much oxalate you're getting from it, and just have it maybe once a day in the context of I don't eat spinach and Swiss chard and sweet potatoes. There's room to keep some of this. So the point of all that is that it's not as hard as you think it is, and you don't have to be as strict as you think you do. And as you start to get better, you're going to be more capable of learning more how to refine this and then how to manage the side effects of the long recovery. I feel like I'm still recovering. I've been doing this for 11 and a third years now.
I guess when we've been doing the opposite for many, many years beforehand, then it's going to take time, isn't it? So
It is going to take time. I'm sad to say that I messed up my spine pretty well with all this. That's not uncommon to have your discs, oxalate crystals in the discs. The discs are flat and bulging. Facet joint arthritis. It causes arthritis in joints, connective tissue issues, pits and holes in the bones. Those have probably all cleaned up by now for sure for me. But I think there's crystalline deposits and other reasons where there's still inflammation in the spine for me. So there's a whole kind of process where the oxalate crystals can kind of teach your body to have this sort of autoimmunity where you get chronic tendonitis, bursitis, chronic issues. And there's ways to work on this and reduce this, but the real key thing is to stop building up this oxalate accumulation in your body and try to get stable and then some deaccumulation of it slowly over time. The faster the removal from the tissues, the more toxic and dangerous it is. And it can cause a disruption in electrolytes. And you don't want to do that because it can start causing pacemaker problems and you get arrhythmias and heart racing and you get high blood pressure and you're going to end up in the emergency room thinking you have a heart attack, which literally you can do. So that's not to scare you. That's just to warn you, like, hey, be casual, just knock out the high worst ones and then keep learning and learning from your body, and you'll be better off.
yeah. And one of the things I found really, really helpful was your data companion that I found on your website. I actually have it as the PDF as well because it's much easier to just quickly put one word into the PDF and find how many oxalates are in it. But I found that online, all the lists contradict each other. It's really confusing. You don't like one says avocados is okay, and the next one says no, it's not. But this companion is like a lifesaver, and I found it really, really helpful. So if people are looking online and it's all feels like big and scary and confusing, then I highly recommend this. And you've also got a new book coming out or just out now, the cookbook.
Well, the cookbook's been there as a PDF for, I don't know, 5 years or something, and people really like it, I'm happy to say. And I've been trying hard to get it so it's also print on demand. So you have it as it, because everyone wants a cookbook print on demand, and we're working on that. So sometime in early 2025, we're going to have the print on demand version and, kind of a slightly new, improved second edition coming out real soon. And it just teaches you all the things you can do with cabbage and turnips and rutabagas. And there's lots of vegetable recipes in there. And it also reminds you good techniques for cooking eggs, good techniques for doing gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, because I relegate eggs to their own chapter. So a lot of us with health problems are who are super sensitive. And oxalates can play a role in that because it's causing your immune system to work so hard and causing gut damage and interfering with healthy immune function. And we tend to be hypersensitive and have a lot of sensitivities. And that's another reason for letting your immune system rest and not trying to do this deaccumulation process too fast. So there's a whole explanation in my book about get out of danger zone, get down into something that calms down your system and not overly doing this deaccumulation. So there's the tools, the full tools you need. The explanation in the book, free stuff on my website, free podcasts everywhere. The data problem resolved because literally that's what causes people to walk away from this topic. They go online looking for information about oxalates in foods, and it's a complete morass. You cannot make heads or tails of it. There's so much wrong data out there. Even in the medical literature, there's titles on articles claiming coffee is high in oxalate. It is not. Tea, black tea is, coffee is not. But if you look at the medical literature, you'll be convinced that coffee is high in oxalate, but that is not the case. And I explain that in my blog. So if you read through my blog now, you got to have good sleep to read the coffee blog, explaining that science and how they mess that up. The date blog explains the mess with the data. you know, I have that same problem. I was sick and fatigued, and I have all this background, professional background, and I found the whole thing pretty overwhelming too. And I've tried my best to make it doable for folks
Mm.
because you deserve good information and you're not getting it from anybody.
Yeah, totally. And also, one of the things that you offer is a regular webinar, like live webinar where people can share about things and you teach people a bit more about oxalates, which I came along to the other week, and I think I'm coming to the next one too, because it's just so much information so that if anybody wants to know more, then they can sign up to that as well, can't they?
Yes, come to the group meetings on Zoom because we have a good time building community there. I teach with graphics and slides, and we change the topic up a lot because it's a lot to cover. And you get all that as handouts so you can look at the slides later. You get a lot more detailed information as part of coming on and being part of that conversation. And it's pretty nice to hear other people both sharing their success and their frustrations and how those are both shared. We share that as a community. Like it's not always easy, and yet amazing things are happening. People are getting joy and they're finding their human personality again when they had been hidden under a cloud of depression and despair. And there's nothing more important than that.
Yeah, totally. So, just to wrap things up, it seems like the takeaway, which will be very nice for my followers, is to take it slow, listen to your body, kind of just kind of do what feels right for you, and to just cut things out bit by bit and see how you feel, and just go with the flow, kind of thing.
And stick with it. Stay with the whole oxalate concept forever. Like, don't walk away from it because you're not going to learn what foods are what quickly. You're not going to remember them easily. You're not going to change your whole life and your diet easily, fast. You don't need to do that. It is a long-term recovery process. It's a matter of getting your heart and mind around the concept and getting enough personal experience. Once you experience the difference of poisoning yourself and not, and seeing the shift and seeing better sleep, better mood, less pain, more capacity, bright, sunny moments in your mind and life, it will be convincing. You just have to work it enough to get to that experience, and that'll help you carry forward over time and not walk away from good information that you need. And coming to the groups is a great way to not feel alone because most of your doctors, friends, family know nothing about this. So you don't have any reinforcements around you.
Yeah.
So getting some support is important too.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, just for finishing off, is there anything else that you want to share with us? Anything else you've got coming up or doing? Everyone, all of your links will be below this video, so everyone will be able to find you there. But yeah, I wondered if there was anything else you wanted to share before we
But there
finish.
are things, there will be more things coming up, and I'll be in Tennessee in early May. So if you're in the US, you might want to come to the meat stock, and there's a coupon code. If you get in, you can get a free any one of my 3 books for free as part of signing up with a coupon code. And then I just like, if you could just somehow see that even in your own experience that pursuing these healthy diet ideas of lots of smoothies and keto bread and dark chocolate and things are supposed to make you feel great, it hasn't worked.
Mm.
If you can just notice that it hasn't worked and there's something else to do. And if you're afraid of eating animal foods, then we need to help you realize that health and nutrition and feeling better requires the nutrients that are provided by eggs, dairy, and meat. So if any of those and fish, if there's any of those foods you can eat, you need to be including them in your diet. But you don't have to. If you are vegan and vegetarian, you can go low oxalate and benefit without that. But if you really want to move your health forward and rebuild your bones and muscles, you're going to need enough protein and animal fats. I mean, butter and the fats in butter really help your mood and your hormones, especially for women. So there's additional supports as you lower the toxicity of some of these plant foods and make more room for a little bit more animal foods, that will rebalance the diet more towards a traditional diet that we evolved on. And that, again, you need to evolve your thinking if you're struggling with like what to eat. It isn't as hard as you think it is, but just take it one step at a time. Be patient with yourself. You need some compassion. You don't feel great. It's okay. Your body wants to heal you. Every minute of every day, every cell wants you to be at your best, and they're working with you on your behalf. You just start cooperating with it a little bit better, and you can have faith that healing is yours to be had.
Yeah, super. Thank you so much, Sally. It's been amazing to speak with you, and I'm sure it's going to inspire many people to at least go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
A little bit. Thank you, Faith. It's so nice that you're finding this topic and sharing it with your listeners. Hopefully, someone was helped today.
Thank you.